What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and with a new entry in this collection of films. I figured what better time than now than to rank the films in this Insidious franchise. So, I'm gonna say off rip, I like all of these movies, so whatever positioning is in, there's no hate or malice towards any of the films. Like, I think they're all pretty either fantastic to just solid. So I'm gonna start there. And secondly, this is just my list. I'm not slam dunking on your list. If our numbers don't align, it's all good. So please be kind in the comments. Always gotta say that because it gets crazy on here if you know. So with all that out the way, let's go ahead and get into the ranking. At number 5, I have The Last Key. This film is kind of just like an offshoot of the timeline. Like, it is in timeline, but it doesn't have anything to do with the pushing or advancing of many characters, if you will, besides like the very ending. And this is honestly the one I watched least because of that. Even though I do like the storyline, I like how the foreshadowing at the beginning on the first case with Elise and the ghost hunters is there for the second one. You know, it's like something that's almost like a mystery in a sense. Like, this is really more of a mystery film, but just in a haunted nature. That aspect I do like, but again, since it's not surrounding, you know, the Lambert family, it's not one that I really watch a lot. And yeah, I think it's a solid film. You know, one thing about the Insidious franchise, like I said earlier, is all the films are at least decent and they offer something on a mainstream level that you can sink your teeth into and you can have a good time watching it in theaters. And this is kind of just that for me. So at number 5, I have The Last Key. At number 4, I have Insidious Chapter 3. I like this film because, again, this adds more layers to the other films before it. This is the first time we meet Elise, and this is the first time we meet the ghost hunters, and we see kind of the creation of both of them and how they even meet up in the first place. You can kind of see them both not really having a handle on it, but then when they're in the same room, they kind of come together and figure this out. So this movie is like an origin story for them, and I really enjoy it because of that. I really like the circumstances of the family who they try to help. You know, the girl, a dad and her brother, and they're grieving over the loss of their mother, and you really get a gist of how it's torn them apart. You know, you have the dad who's all sporadic and all over the place. You have the daughter who's just ready to get the hell out of here because she wants to leave this grief behind and move to better things. And her brother's just kind of just there. You know, he's a younger kid, so it's almost like he kind of grasps the situation, but not really. And I just like the dynamic they build in the apartment, and her being the reason why these ghosts come out to her because she doesn't know she can astral project. And this is kind of, again, the origin of how Elise came up with the name of the Further. You know, she came up with that and why she didn't go there. We see the lady who'd been trying to kill her all this time. We see the origin, not really the origin because we don't really know why, but we see face to face of the first time they've met, and you see that she wasn't always as powerful within this space as she is in the other films. So I really enjoy that. I like the setting being in an apartment building with it being so many people. It definitely is able to push things a little further, all pun intended, with the type of ghosts that are there and the different people that are there. And I like how when you go into the Further, it's kind of this haunted house maze being in the apartment, and you run into different people, different places, and they play with the scares pretty well. So at number 4, I have Insidious Chapter 3. At number 3, I have Insidious The Red Door. And I enjoy this film because it is literally a sequel to the sequel. You know, it picks up right after 2, and we really see how the events of Insidious 2 affected the whole family. And I really love when horror movies are able to capitalize on the effects of something that happened, especially like sequels, you know, with the ability to go like, this happened in the last movie and this is what it's doing for everybody now, and you really get a gist of how broken the events from 2 made that whole family. You know, not going to say exactly what it is because the movie just did release, but I love that dynamic. I love how dramatic it is. I love that it's a father and son story the same way the first movie was, and it's kind of a full circle moment of everybody getting their arc from Dalton to his dad. You see the full circle and explanation as to why they are the way they are. They're able to accept certain things about themselves and others because of what they learn, and it just works out in that capacity. Despite there being some issues with humor, I think, that weren't really needed, and some scenes that were there that just didn't work out, I feel like the performances and that dynamic of drama really made it work. And Patrick Wilson's direction was great. You definitely tell he learned from Juan a lot about how to stress that tension out all the way until the rubber band snaps. I think all of the jump scares he did most of them worked. Of course, he did have little cheap ones in there, but you gotta sneak those in sometimes and keep people on their toes. But I like how he played in the background a whole bunch. I just really enjoyed that, man. It takes a horror aficionado to really want to direct the film that way. He did some things there that really had me on the edge of my seat. So all in all, man, this is like a very dramatic and emotional story, but still packs all the punches that you would expect from this franchise. So at number 3, I have Insidious: The Red Door. Now, at number 2, I have Insidious 2. I really enjoyed this film and how they took things further than the first one, you know, by going different places and showing what these ghosts could really do. I like the different locations here, whereas the first one, it kind of just took place at one house, and, well, 2 houses really, but it kind of took place at the house and then the further, but here we see them go other places like abandoned buildings, and the way they play with that is just insane. Like the scene with all of like the sheets over these dummies, oof, that's like super creepy. And I like how Juan was able to fit in a little bit of found footage during that scene. Juan is just a master. It is what it is. He is a master, and I just love how this happens right after Insidious. You could literally put those 2 films together and have a nice 3-hour recap of the night. I think I really would like to see an edit of those 3 films. I like that we get a origin story about the spirit that killed Elise and why she has so much beef with her and how she came to be. And this movie grabs from a lot of different films that I can notice, you know, even with the ghost and the reveal of why they are the way they are. There's definitely notes of Camp Sleepaway here with the mom and the daughter there, the daughter in that film, and it works the same way here. And even with Patrick Wilson's character, I keep forgetting the dad's name, it's pissing me off, but like the way he gets possessed is very similar to Amityville Horror, and I like that Juan went that route instead of going the route of like how the typical possession is, where people kind of head spin and throwing up and have powers and all that. No, they went the subtle route of just showing a guy going crazy like Amityville Horror. It really makes the situation even scarier to know that this guy gets possessed. The demon is doing its best to seem normal for whatever reason, you know. Elise has said that, like, demons crave life, and here it makes you think like, well, if a demon gets life, what do they want to do? And you don't know. You just see how wicked that the dad is acting, and it's just like, what is the end game here? And it makes you think like, if he were to accomplish his goals, what would he do? So I just really love how they continue the story in Insidious 2. Juan is a master, and at number 2 is Insidious 2, ironically. And of course, at number 1 is Insidious. This is one of my favorite horror films of all time. It's in my top 10, and I just think that it sets the precedent for horror from that time. I think when you talk about modern day horror, you cannot leave Insidious off the list because of what it did. It is a PG-13 movie that I find to be scarier than most R-rated films. Just ridiculously haunting imagery, shot extremely well, scary as hell, jump scares that are just amazing, that some of which that still get me to this day. I even know it's coming, like when the guy's walking outside the window back and forth, it gets me every single time. I love how Juan presents the scare but doesn't put the jump scare sound in it until like the character sees it. Like the baby monitor scare was one of the best ones ever. I like the whole idea of the further and just this concept of astral projection and what they built around that concept, because I don't really think there is, to my memory, and of course nothing is ever new, but I can't recall seeing a world like this depicted in this nature of like astral projection. I've never seen it before. So now, because of this film, when I hear about that type of concept, I automatically go to this, and somebody carrying a lantern. So just the direction is awesome. Lipstick as a demon is just terrifying. The choice to put Tiptoe Through the Tulips as the soundtrack when they go there, it's just, this movie single-handedly made all those let me not like single-handedly, because Jeepers Creepers kind of played with that first, but Jeepers Creepers only played it at the end. But here, you hear it in multiple spots, like in the real world, and then you hear it again when you're in the layer of lipstick, and it's just fucking frightening. Like, I mean, the design of the demon is just, nightmare fuel. Some of the best jump scares. Can't forget about lipstick showing up behind Patrick Wilson's character. Just a fantastic setup of a shot that was just masterful. This is one of James Wan's masterpieces. Love this film. I study it. Such an experience, man. Such an experience. And so you can see why I have that #1. And I don't think this film would ever be topped within the franchise. And I hold it at such a high level because, come on. PG-13 movie, we did this. I don't even know how they was able to keep the PG-13 rating because of how haunting this imagery is in here, man. Whew. Anyway, that's my ranking of the Insidious franchise. Let me know what yours is down below. And of course, be kind. And if you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. If you already are subscribed, thank you. And until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.